thank you for joining us. Let's talk about how to sell online in Latin America. Welcome to today's Go Global webinar series, Website Localization and Online Marketing for Latin America. Thank you for joining us wherever you may be, and I can see that there are many attendees from the US, so good morning to you. A very good morning to you on the East Coast and Central Time, and an early morning to you on the West. To you in Europe, the United Kingdom, a good afternoon to you, and thank you for joining us as we are going to be discussing and presenting on how to sell online in Latin America, website localization and online marketing for Latin America. My name is John Worthington. I am CEO here at IBT Online. I have the huge pleasure of introducing today's webinar, and I'm sitting today in Miami in our office over here, and I am joined by our guest speakers and presenters. That is Susanna Hardy, Client Online Services Director at IBT Online, and Juliana Velásquez of Globalista, who is based over in Colombia. We've all been working very hard internally and also with some of our clients for some of the case study work that you're going to be listening to later, all about the useful information that we can provide for you for Latin American online. How to get all of that valuable information, the practical experience, the case studies for today's Go Global webinar. Now, just before we get started, I will just have to do a little bit of housekeeping. So there we go. There's some coffee and teapots or a cocktail for you as we dive into knowing how today's webinar is going to proceed. So do know that the Go Global webinar series is now 3 years old. And that means that there is a rich catalog of recorded webinars available to you on demand. If you go to the website www.ibt.onl/resources, you'll see there 3 years worth of webinars covering many markets, many online subjects that should help you grow your businesses globally and online. For future webinars, we have webinar planning going ahead right up till December 2017. So if you're looking there, look at the // webinars, and you will therefore see the catalog of webinars that are going forward. All about today's webinar. Now, today's webinar is going to be about 45 minutes long. It's well rehearsed, so we hope we can be sticking to that agenda. This brief introduction by myself, and then I will be handing over to Susanna and Juliana. During the course of the webinar, there will be 4 polls, so please be ready with your mice, get comfortable, relaxed, but nevertheless, please do participate. Your participation helps the webinar in terms of information and understanding of the subjects and how we can better serve you going forward. There are questions. There will be time. We've planned 10 minutes at the end for questions, so please do go to the question box. You can see it on your screen, and let us answer your questions. If we don't get to your questions today, do know that we'll come back and answer them shall we say, directly to you by email afterwards. There is a chat box, so again, don't hesitate to share some of the chat box information, any concerns that you may have. There is a webinar closing survey, so please, at the end, do stay just to answer a few brief questions. Give us your feedback. It does help us to do a better job going forward. And finally, tomorrow is Friday. Yes, happy Friday tomorrow, the end of the week, and we'll be sending you a recording and the slide deck on Friday. So that'll be in your email boxes, your inbox, this time tomorrow. So now sit back, enjoy a coffee, a tea, or that cocktail, whatever it is, and we're pleased to be presenting to you today on how to sell online in Latin America. Now, I'm going to just introduce the 2 presenters. On the bottom left-hand side, you see Susanna Hardy, and the bottom right-hand side, there is Juliana Velásquez. And 2 words on Susanna. Susanna is lead presenter on today's webinar. Susanna is IBT Online's Director for Client Services. Susanna heads up our global operations that's focusing on helping corporates leverage the internet, and that is the IBT Online Global Program to develop their businesses internationally. If when you're listening to Susanna, she sounds Americaness, that is because in many ways she is born in Germany and lived in Germany, but nevertheless has been educated and worked in the US, that is up in New York. Susanna has also worked in Brussels, Paris and London. Susanna does have a deep background and expertise in international and online business. To Juliana. Juliana is today joining us from Colombia, is a director of Globalista, and Juliana joined Globalista back in 2012 with a background in banking, but also law and having attended business school in Spain. Juliana's passion is for helping businesses expand internationally, and she's got an extensive background and experience in Latin America and helping US companies do that. Juliana has a unique perspective, as you're going to hear and enjoy, as she tells us all about her experience and knowledge and understanding of doing business online in Latin America. So, 2 words onto IBT. IBT is a private company. We're both a US corporation and a European corporation. IBT stands for International Business and Technologies Online. We've been delivering our online global program since 2002. So we've been at this for 15 years, therefore a wealth of experience, a wealth of case studies and success stories for our corporate clients as we work with them online globally. Online Global has 2 huge value adds for businesses that want to grow internationally. The first is website localization, and the second, leading from the first, of course, is international online marketing. They have a singular objective. It's helping you to grow your exports, grow your sales, grow your brands and businesses globally. Website localization is all about adapting your home market website to local languages and culture in target markets, and then the online international marketing program, which has 4 elements to that. That is search engine optimization, the social media content and reporting, and analytics. Now, whether we're talking B2B, B2C, or business to business and then on to consumer, or even business to government, the online global program applies. And there's no better example of where you can apply online global that delivers export sales, brand and business growth than in Latin America. So with that, now I hand over to my colleague Susanna, and Susanna will be taking us through today's agenda, and the program really kicks off. Susanna, are you there?
Thank you very much, John, and it's a great pleasure to be here today to discuss Latin America business and website localization, how to sell online in Latin America with Globalista and with Juliana from Globalista. So Juliana is going to give us the first sort of the business overview, very much a top-down approach of looking at Latin America and really focusing in on some of the benefits and challenges that one can face as a business looking into exporting into Latin America. Then I'll be taking on section 2 and 3, which is talking more about the online side, both localization and the marketing, and giving you some case studies and walking you through some examples. And then we've left hopefully enough time for questions at the end. So without that, I'm going to turn over to Juliana, if you're there, please. Juliana?
Juliana, are you on mute by any chance? Can we dive in there?
She is indeed on mute.
So Susanna, perhaps you want to take it away for Juliana.
Hello, I'm here. I was trying to get out of mute and I couldn't, but I'm here.
That happened. Don't worry at all. That does happen. Welcome, Juliana. Good to have you.
Thank you, John. Thank you, John, for the introduction. Thank you, IBT Partners, for inviting me to this webinar. And thank you all for coming. I hope you come visit sometime to Colombia. It's a wonderful country. I'm going to start with the Latin American overview so that you can have a quick but clear idea of the region. And then I'm going to go through some of the analysis of the region from a GDP standpoint of view, foreign direct investment, global competitive, and so on and so forth. From a Latin American overview, we have 33 countries in the region. It's a region with a huge economic potential. It is composed, as I said, by 33 countries with combined population of almost 600 million people, which is huge, and containing a lot of amounts of natural resources. Latin America, it's a region that offers massive potential demand, numerous material for export, and significant latent production capability. The economic outlook for Latin America and the Caribbean is improving thanks to a stronger global economy, improved fiscal positions, lower inflationary pressures, and better prospects for Argentina and Brazil, according to the IDB 2017 macroeconomic report. If we go to the other slide. In terms of population, Latin America is the world's most urbanized continent in the world. 80% of the people live in the city. In terms of trade, historically, the USA has been Latin America's largest trading partner, but as a result of Asia's demand for commodities, trade between the two continents has grown by over 20% a year for the past decade in Asia, and fast catching up on the USA as primary trading partner. The majority of Latin American inhabitants speak Spanish and or Portuguese. These are the percentage of languages. Spanish is the first language, of course, with 60% of the population speaking Spanish. Portuguese, because Brazil, as the largest country in the region, speaks Portuguese, is the second language with 34%. And indigenous languages have 6% on the region. If we can move. This is the analysis in terms of GDP in 2016. As we can see, Brazil is the largest economy in the region and will be with the upcoming years. Mexico in second, Argentina, Colombia, Chile, and Peru. If we can go to the other slide. So the region is turning after suffering negative growth, as you can all read in the news. The adjustment to lower commodity prices, particularly oil, and weaker external demands is almost over in Latin America, and the growth will keep up in 2017. The largest economies in the region are having a positive growth for the first time in 2 years. And why is that? Growth in developed markets has a very positive impact. Commodity prices are off their lows. Most Latin American currencies have stopped falling against the dollar, which had a very negative impact in inflationary pressures. And this is the top 30 destination for foreign direct investment in the world. The ones with the stars as the Latin American economy, so that you can make a global comparison or which Latin American countries stand in terms of foreign direct investment. As you can see, Brazil is the first one, then is Mexico, Chile, Colombia, and Argentina. If we can move to the other slide. This is the Global Competitiveness Report, which gives us the index on 12 pillars. I'm not going to mention them because they are too long, but it includes innovation, policy making, market behavior, labor force, and political stability. So this is the ranking of Latin America. It starts with Puerto Rico, and then it has Chile, Panama, Mexico, Costa Rica, Colombia, Peru, Uruguay, Guatemala, Brazil, and Ecuador. As you can see, it's slightly different from the other analysis from a GDP and FDI point of view because it takes into account economic health, labor force, and political stability. We can move to the other side. So this is the interesting part. The benefits of doing business in Latin America. We have a lot of diverse opportunity for investment in a wide variety of sectors. Latin America is composed mainly by developing countries that are catching up with the perspective of global economy, which improves policy making, promoting trade and international investments. Particularly in services, Latin America has put a lot of effort in developing skilled labor with very competitive salaries. In terms of investment incentives, there are fiscal reforms taking place in Latin America that creates incentives to foreign companies to invest in the region, and a continuing effort to eradicate corruption and excessive regulations on establishing legal vehicles that are keen to foreign investments. Free trade agreements are not only growing in number, but also the existing ones are being revised, and countries are making an effort to create internal regulations to exploit more accurately those agreements, because we have some years where we start signing a lot of free trade agreements, but the implementation phase we're facing a lot of difficulties. So the countries are making a huge effort in internal policy to promote international trade in the framework of the agreements. And the solid investment framework includes policies, as I said, regulations, and institutions that are working very hard on attracting international investment to the region. The challenges of doing business in Latin America, I think we all are very aware of the challenges. This is, I'm going to talk about what executives think about doing business in Latin America. And the first one is the failure of national governments. The failure of national governance is at the forefront of Latin American executives' minds when it comes to identifying the risks and challenges of doing business. Recent events in the region go some way to explaining the reason for this concern, and I'm going to give some examples. Brazil's numerous political and business corruption scandals, corporate governance issues in Mexico, and the complete breakdown in government in Venezuela. Unemployment or underemployment are unfortunately one of the biggest problems in Latin America. Unemployment, particularly among young people, saw a sharp increase in 2016, despite the narrative of a growing and upwardly mobile middle class. The International Labour Organization placed the official unemployment rate across the region above 8% in 2016. The consequences for business are far-reaching. Growing unemployment increased the prominence and structural importance of shadow economies, and it affects the dynamization of social classes and the upward of middle class. The direction and quality of fiscal policy within Latin America is also strongly linked to the question of legal and political aspects of if the state can work together to deliver a strong, robust environment in which business can operate. This is a very important clarification to make. It's important to understand that also that even though we're making an analysis of the region, and even though countries share historical, social, and demographic similarities such as language, the region is very diverse and unique. So the analysis in investment and trade has to be made on a individual basis from country to country. And of course, the energy price shock, which affects directly the macroeconomic analysis on the countries of Latin American countries. Thank you all.
Juliana,
Yeah?
thank you so much. Can we jump into a poll related to that? Thank you for that information. Very, very interesting. And I think there's poll number 1 about to be launched. So please, everybody, here you go. Here's our first poll. Does your company already do business in Latin America? Is that yes with a local partner? Is that also online, or only with a local partner, online only, or are you thinking about it? Please, what's going on? Let me give you some feedback. Total yeses, over 50%, that's 25% are saying yes with a local partner online, and 38% saying yes with a local partner. There's still, I would say to you, about 30+% who are saying they're thinking about it. I think that's great. I'm now going to close this poll. I'm going to try with this, here we go. That is the dancing horn which says it's the end of the first poll. Thank you very much indeed. I'm now going to close that. I'm going to hand that back. Juliana, over to you again.
No, to me?
Oh, sorry, Susanna, over to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you also, Juliana. Well, I'm going to be talking now about the sort of the online side of it, and I'm going to start off with this incredibly complex diagram. It's actually a diagram that I like quite a lot. I'm sure that the past, as they call it yesterday, was not as simple as that. But I do think that today is a much more complex environment for companies to act in. It is more customer focused. And this diagram is I think it's, what I like about it is that it really shows for us why we think website localization and online marketing is so important. You know, companies, small companies as well as large companies, can effectively use website localization and marketing to be customer-centric and therefore perform in the way that customers now want to in today's environment. And I guess there are three key reasons why social media and online marketing is an incredibly effective way for company to export and grow brands globally. First of all, it's just getting to know, you know, getting known. You know, if you've got new customers in international markets, if they want to buy from you, well, they have to know about you. They have to find you. So you have to have a local website for them to find you and engage in that website through social media. Secondly, social media allows you to sort of delve into a market and do market research. It's a very reactive form, so that if you're interested in a market, say you're interested in getting more information on Chile, you know, one of the best ways to do it, very fast, very effective, is through social media. And thirdly, it's a direct sales channel. It's a web shop, as it were. So it allows your target consumers to find you, you research about them, and then they buy from you directly. So this is, I guess, sort of an illustration of why we think website localization and online marketing is the best tool possible for exporters. Now, what is website localization? John mentioned it briefly. I'm going to just say one slide about it. For me, I think the best way to understand website localization is to really think about how the search engines work. And for Latin America in particular, it's kind of easy because you have one search engine, this huge monopoly share that Google has, you know, well over 90% market share across Latin America. You know, so it's really, you just have the one search engine to deal with across the entire continent. But each country is different. Google Colombia is different from Google Bolivia, is different from Google Argentina. Even if they're all in Spanish, they're going to be different because Google will make sure that it suits the person searching. So Google is in fact market specific and client focused, which is what a website should be and what a local website is. So a local website has its registered domain name, should be multilingual, it's definitely got to be mobile, adapt some of the design, absolutely adapt the language as well, whether it's Chilean Spanish or Argentinian Spanish. You need keyword research with Google, the correct content management system, and obviously you need the social media. And what I mean also by these, you know, keyword research and social media, here's just one example. This is an example, in fact, of something we did for a client. We were looking at doing some online marketing for them, and in Brazil, and it's very important to get the words right. And obviously in Brazil it's Portuguese, but there's quite a big difference between Portuguese in Portugal and Portuguese in Brazil. And if you are not aware of how a Brazilian person would search the information, would find the information, would appreciate the information, they're not going to find it properly, they're not going to like it, and then they won't trust, they won't have the level of trust that they need for that buying experience. Now the example here is the word for train in Portuguese. And there are two words for train in Portuguese, either trem or comboio. And in one country, everybody says trem, in Brazil. And in Portugal, everybody, 98% of the people, search online for comboio. So if you're going to do something about trains on your online field, you need to know exactly what your local market is looking for and what your local market is getting it. So the point here really also is that search engine optimization is never static. You do it once to get your website well referenced, but you need to look at these word choices regularly and keep them up to speed. And that's particularly important in this sort of kaleidoscope that you have across Latin America of these different countries, these 33 different countries. Now here's some of the major trends that are happening, but perhaps first we have a quick poll. John.
Susanna, absolutely. Please, everybody, here we go. It's poll number 2. I'm going to launch it, and there we go. Do you have localized websites for your export market? So there you go. Is it yes, yes, or yes in terms of main markets, a few export markets, or perhaps Latin American markets, or are you thinking about it? What is your view about online? So let me give you some feedback. Fully 7% are saying yes in all of their main export markets, 12 are saying yes but only in a few, and actually some 70% are saying that they're thinking about it. So there's an awful lot of thinking going on out there, which is a really good thing. I commend that, and it is absolutely the subject for 2017. It's that the online world is moving, it's changing, and thinking about it is a great place to be. So with that, I'm going to, that is poll number 2. That's my little poll ending, and Susanna, I'm handing it back to you.
Thank you, John. I like the poll sound. Right, a couple of the major trends across Latin America. One of the very first ones is mobility. Now, this is something you're going to find in a lot of markets which came to the are sort of secondary markets. They're what I would call like an emerging market. You'll find the same thing in India and Vietnam and in Indonesia. These are markets that basically jumped a PC stage, and they've really gone straight into mobile, and they connect to the internet via smartphones. Now, Juliana said earlier that the population of Latin America is just shy of 600 million. There are expected to be about 450 million mobile subscriptions within the next 2 years. So that gives you an indication of the growth of the internet penetration that's going on in Latin America. It is a very, very fast-growing market across the globe. I mean, smartphones were only introduced 10 years ago in 2007. So this is just an enormous sweep up we've had for Latin America. Now in Latin America at the moment, about 55% of the inhabitants of Latin America use the internet. But as I said, it's growing in double-digit forms, particularly with the price of smartphones coming down quite a bit. And again, as Juliana had said, it's a very urban population, so that internet connection is also going up quite well. But one of the key characteristics that you have to take on board when dealing in Latin America, and particularly when you're designing a website, when you're looking at payments, when you're looking at all kinds of things like that in social media, is it's got to be totally mobile enabled. Design your website first for a smartphone, laptop second. The next really big trend you see is something that gets people in marketing very excited. Basically, it's called about social catching up with search. Now, in the past, I'm sitting in the UK. When I go on the internet, most of the time I go on the internet to search something. I say, what time is it in Chile? Or I go on the internet to say, where's the best pizzeria in London? But in a lot of places, for example, and particularly in Latin America, more so even in China, more so than any other area that I know of, social is above search. So you search via your social. What I mean by that is, where's the best pizzeria in Bogota? You won't go on Google. You might go on Facebook or WhatsApp or to some of your social media networks and platforms and ask your community, where can I buy the best pair of jeans? Where can I buy this? What is happening here? So you get your news, your information, you search your products online, mobile, and via social media. Not exclusively, but this graph here I think explains it quite well. There was a survey done. This is actually from Mexico. But a similar survey was done, actually, I saw one recently in Brazil and also one in Colombia, said the same thing. Why do you access the internet? Well, the first reason I check is to check out social media, and then to do emails, and then to get instant messages. And in fourth place, maybe to get information. So it's a very different environment. And that's why social media and online marketing is just absolutely essential in these markets. I would argue even more so than in the more traditional markets, the US market, the UK market, which are more traditional, more mature markets, if you can call it like this. Now, I said that Google has a monopolistic position in Latin America with over 90%. So does Facebook. An amazing market share across all of Latin America. And I've got some stats later about some of the individual countries. But Facebook, if you consider that they also own WhatsApp and Instagram, they really have a huge dominant position across all the countries in Latin America. And it's used, as I said earlier, both for businesses and for people searching for news, for information, for buying purposes. So again, Facebook is used in a very different way, perhaps, than something you're used to if you're sitting in, say, Boston, or if you're sitting in London, or if you're sitting in Paris. Facebook across Latin America is the largest single channel that you have to be continuously aware of and involved in it. And that also follows on Facebook, just like Google, is very localized. Facebook occurs in over 101 different languages today. Facebook Bolivia is very different, significantly different anyway, from Facebook Argentina in its website language, and its keywords, and all of that. So again, you have to have a very dedicated, market-specific, client-focused social media campaign. Do we have time for a quick poll, Don?
Absolutely. It is now time for the third poll. So please join us and give us your feedback on the subject of how do you market internationally. As you're looking at your business, as you're seeking to go international, are you looking at trade shows? There's still very valuable routes to market. Is it online and social media? Is it paid advertising? How about distributors and manufacturer reps and visiting prospective international customers? Let me give you a little bit of feedback. The feedback says 70% are using trade shows. Some 50% are using online and social. 19% paid advertising, 60% through distributors, and a full 70+% are visiting prospective international customers. It is a great mix. All of those things are all about how do you market internationally. By doing them all, you've got to be on the right route. Well done. Thank you for the feedback. This information will be available to you tomorrow when you get the inbound recording. This closes the third poll, and thank you, and I hand back to Susanna.
Thank you very much, John. I just wanted to just do a quick scan of some of the major markets, and in particular looking at sort of some of the very largest ones. Brazil, just as a very sort of quick snapshot of it, it is after all the 21st largest economy in the world. How about that? And interesting enough, Juliana was saying earlier about how Asia is taking an increasing role in trade. Brazil's largest trade partner is actually China, no longer the US. From an online perspective, it is incredibly mobile, and as you can see, 132 million people access the internet via their mobile phone out of 139 people. And this is the amazing statistic that I thought: 90% of them are online every day. And again, this is something that you see in a lot of these sort of emerging markets where you don't always have the infrastructure of other resources. You don't always have good telephone lines, so you use the internet. It's actually easier. You don't always engage that well with perhaps, or have that much trust perhaps in some of the public institutions. So you go onto your Facebook and your social networks instead. It is a huge e-commerce market as well. It's actually the number 10 in the world, it towers over the other Latin American markets, and it is very fast growing, partly because it's got a very young population. They're a very young population. It's growing at about over 20% per annum at the moment, so very strong. The downside of Brazil Online is the regulations, and it is not, it doesn't rank that well in terms of ease of doing business from the sort of normal ways that you would look at it, and from an online perspective also, it does have some hiccups in terms of the regulatory issues, so it's a bit complex for that. Now I'm going to go look quickly at Mexico. Mexico is a much easier, flexible, it's a really fantastic market for an online experience. It's very reactive, as you can see again, 90% of the people who have internet use social media, and it is one of Facebook's most important markets. Facebook have made a statement saying that they will want it to be about their 5th largest market within the next few years. So, again, a very strong market for an online-specific strategy. Now, we'll come to some case studies where you'll see what I mean by in terms of reactivity for Mexico especially, and what that means in terms of Facebook. Next, really just grouping these ones together just to give you sort of some flavor on it, and we will be doing some webinars later about e-commerce in particular in Latin America and diving into more detail with these countries. Argentina, as Juliana said, is coming out of a difficult place and is beginning to get some traction economically. It is the 3rd largest economy, and it has a fantastic penetration rate for internet. I mean, nearly 80% penetration rate of its population use the internet, and the vast majority are on Facebook as well and use social media. Chile as well, again about 80%, actually has the highest penetration rate together with Argentina in Latin America. And again, there's, again, we're talking huge numbers on Facebook, and again, this is a growing figure as well. Facebook continues to just sweep up market share. Colombia, a fantastic economy to do business in, and the 5th largest in Latin America. They are still at the growth stage in terms of penetration rate, but given the infrastructure spend that's going on there at the moment, most people are expecting the penetration rate of internet to go up to about 70% within the next 2 to 3 years. And as you can see, the same sort of balance of people on Facebook versus internet users. So this just gives you sort of a flavor of Latin America, the penetration rate for internet, the take-up of social media, the use of it, and its mobility. Now, there's a couple of little case studies and examples I want to give you. When we talked about localized websites, and here you have, this is an American company. We have, they have on the one side a Brazilian website. They have also a Peruvian website, and you can tell right away, with these iconic pictures of the countries, that's all one needs really to make sure that it's immediately visible to anybody which one they're in, and we are feeling more local because we have this picture of Machu Picchu, for example, in Peru. Obviously, but we also do a lot of care in terms of making sure that the language is correct, making sure that the local target client finds this site first, engages with the site properly, and as I said earlier, has the confidence that they need in order to actually do some purchasing. A quick example now also of social media and social media campaigns. This is excuse me, an example of a Facebook campaign that we did for a company. And excuse me, we launched a Facebook campaign in 3 separate countries at the same time from scratch. As soon as the sites were live, in Britain, in France, and in Mexico. Now, Britain and France are quite mature, well, as far as you can call about maturity of the internet. They're quite mature markets. and these are Facebook. People are a little bit more jaded, a little bit more circumspect of Facebook. But it was a good campaign. They got well liked. It reached 21,000 people in the UK, 33,000 in France. That was pretty good, and it got sort of retweeted and and liked and so on. But it just blew out the water in terms of Mexico. 250,000 people reached. Excuse me. It really engaged. People were sharing it and liking it and talking about it. And what's interesting here is also the cost. The cost of this one campaign we did was significantly different in these three markets as well, with Mexico being a fraction of the cost of, literally a fraction of the cost of France and the UK. So that's also what I wanted to say, was that these are markets that are very, they're fantastic returns on investment in Latin America. People there are hungry for social media campaigns, for social media, for companies to go onto social media and to react with it. They react extremely well to it, and like it and share it. So that's sort of the main takeaway from that.
Susanna.
I have a final.
Yeah, Susanna, can I do, fascinating. Thank you very much for those case studies, that information, very, very instructive, insightful, and relevant to poll number 4. So please, can you participate? I'm going to launch the 4th and final poll today, is how about you and social media? I think that Juliana and Susanna have given some really amazing information, very instructional. And social media in Latin America is clearly a route to go. It needs to be worked on, understood. So do you use social media to promote your business? Yes, for all of your markets, some domestic markets, only a few key markets, or are you thinking about it? Let me tell you, we have 75% of today's attendees submitting information, and they are telling us that 12% yes for all markets. Bravo to you. 35% at home in the domestic market, 35% again saying yes in a few key markets, and fully 17% are thinking about it. Well, well done. Thank you for participating in today's polls. That is the final poll. Therefore, that is the horn to close it, and I thank you. And I shut this down and hand over to Susanna.
Thank you. Just really for the conclusion, before we head on to questions, I think both Juliana and I have been really discussing this, quite a lot over the last few weeks, and really just wanted to bring together a few words, our conclusions about investing and doing business in Latin America. It's obviously a large and very diverse place. 33 countries, all of them different. There are good growth rates there. In some markets, fantastic double-digit growth rates, particularly in things like e-commerce, but in many, many sectors. It is highly urban, which means also highly reactive and young. It is very engaged, certainly from a social media perspective. If you put out campaigns that are anchored into a solid localized website, you will get very strong returns from that. There are challenges, definitely, partly just because it's so big. As Juliana also mentioned about governance, it's not always been the best. There's also infrastructure issues and logistic issues. Some of these, though, are being addressed pretty quickly. I note that Walmart have just invested or plan to invest up to $4 billion into Mexico. Amazon is investing another $1 billion into Central America. And they are talking about some more investments into Brazil and Chile and Colombia as well, as those key markets sort of really are the ones people focus on. So from our point of view, it is a perfect place, a fantastic place to do business, and a fantastic place to do online business through localized websites and localized social media. Now, we will be doing some more webinars in the coming weeks, coming months about specific markets and e-commerce in Latin America, but also about other subjects as well. And as John mentioned, you can check out our other resources. And with that, I hope I've left some time for questions, John.
You have indeed. Susanna and Juliana, thank you both very much. A wonderful, very, very interesting and well-presented webinar. Lots of useful information, inciting and inviting a lot of questions. So I'm just going to pick a few here, and the timing has been good. So again, both of you, Susanna, Juliana, thank you. Juliana, this one definitely will be for you. It's a sort of macro kind of question. It's, what about political stability in Latin America? Can you give me your top view on that, Juliana, please?
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. As I said before, political stability in the region is a big concern, but it will have to be analyzed and studied on a case-by-case basis. Definitely, the countries are learning their lessons regarding dictatorship and totalitarian regimes, and going into more central, moderate governments that provide more optimistic view on international investment and trade.
I like it. Thank you very much indeed. A good response, and certainly if you want more information, don't hesitate to get in touch with Juliana. Susanna, I'm going to jump to you. It's a Florida-based company. They say they're looking at Latin America, and this is kind of an open question. It says, where do I start? What is the best place to start online in business in Latin America? Well, good luck.
Very good question. I think that's a perfect legitimate question. Where to start? You know, there's so many exciting growth markets in Latin America. I think it's very, very important to prioritize, to say which ones are the lowest hanging fruit. For example, if you've got a great distributor in Chile, and you say, this is a great distributor, he's doing good business, he could do, you know, 50% more business if he had the right tools. Then it's about time you built him a fantastic local website and gave him some marketing help too, with some online media. So that's, you know, you need to prioritize and choose your markets, choose which ones we're going to have the best returns, and work your way from there. That's how we would do it, really, just to say which ones would be the most reactive for you today, and then build your presence online from that base. Thank you, John.
Yeah, good answer. And I know as well on our blog there is a blog all about where do I start, looking at the three main principles that we see as people get online. So don't hesitate to go out and check out the blogs. Yeah, I think you'll find some very useful guidance in terms of where do I start in going online. Juliana, jumping to you in terms of cultural barriers. They're big picture questions here. Cultural barriers to doing business in Latin America. Over to you, Juliana.
Thank you. Cultural barriers are one of the most important things to take into account when trading or making business in Latin America, because you have to understand that Latin American countries have a very unique way of doing business. The pace of the negotiations is different, it's a more slower pace. The way that the deals are closed are different. You can find Latin America telling you that you're going to make a deal all the way through the negotiations, and then at the end they can back. So please take into account that the pace is different, the way that people express themselves as to where their intention in the deal are different from North America and Europe, for example, and it's a very important issue to take into account during the negotiations.
Yeah, I thank you for that. That's very, very useful and good practical and guidance advice. Susanna, jumping back, social media, your comments on social media are clearly picking up interest. And again, it's sort of the same as social media. Where do I start for our Latin American business? Social media, Susanna.
Well, again, I think that's a good question, because you know, if you don't have an existing strategy for it, then it's, you know, the first thing you have to do is really build a strategy and say, what is the social media for? It's really nice to hang that on something. For example, a new product launch, or a new opening a new office, or even a trade show. And we would typically say also, you know, build it for the first sort of 6 weeks, the first 3 months, and build it out from there. And as I think I've made very clear, you have to involve a strong Facebook component into that social media strategy. We would also typically boost suggest boosting the initial start with some paid advertisement as well.
Yeah, thank you for that. I know that's practical experience talking. Jumping back, and I suppose, Juliana, without getting too political, this is a NAFTA question. Oops, NAFTA renegotiations. What do you see as the impact for Latin America? How do you see all of that?
NAFTA renegotiations have a direct impact on Mexico as a signatory of the agreement and for Central American countries, particularly in natural resources and automotive, mainly in the automotive industry. But for the rest of Latin America, it has more lessons than impact. It will have to make an analysis on how we depend on those trade agreements in these particular sectors of natural resources and manufacture, and how we affect internal labor force and economic stability on each of the countries.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you. And it's a big subject. Yesterday I was attending a conference, and indeed it's a big subject. Thank you, Juliana, for that. Susanna, there's a quick last one here which says, how do I, if I want to continue the discussion, who am I talking to? How do I get in touch with IBT Online?
If you can look at your screen, there's my direct email, sh@ibt.onl. And then there's Juliana's as well if you want to get in touch with Globalista. But if you go to our website, which is ibt.onl, you can also, there's also a contact form. That's probably, email's probably best. Or else you could go on our Facebook page, or our LinkedIn page, or our Twitter. but
That's a lot of choices.
Easiest would be just the contact details you have on your screen.
Okay, well, look, thank you very much. I think looking at the time, I want to say thank you again so much. Juliana, really a tremendous job. A lot of really useful information. Please, attendees, if you want to get in touch with Juliana, there you have the contact details, and Susanna, you have the contact details there. Thank you, everyone, for participating today. We do hope that you've enjoyed the webinar. We hope that you found some useful information, some practical guidance, some takeaways to help you grow your exports, your sales, your business, and your brands in Latin America. Do know that tomorrow you will be receiving the recording. The slide deck will arrive by email about this time tomorrow. And so I think it's our turn now to go like this. This is going to be, here we go. That is for Juliana. That is for Susanna. From all of us who have been listening in today, thank you for doing a really great job. And please, as I close down this webinar, jump onto the survey and give us a little bit of feedback. And thank you very much indeed for joining us for today's online global webinar. Thank you and have a great day.